Hello and welcome to the Amazon Show with me, Chris Stafford. Well, if you've been following this show recently on With Sports, you'll know that we've been following the journey of Marci Kornegay, my good friend who is on the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail, from the California-Mexican border all the way up to the Canadian border, 2,650 miles. And I think the last time we spoke, Marci, you were at Lake Tahoe, and you've had a major exclamation point to interrupt this journey, and you're back at Lake Tahoe. So explain exactly what happened.
Hey, Chris, it's good to be with you again. And yeah, it's amazing how this trail will throw boomerangs in your face and expect you to make some really interesting and important and, well, I guess maybe even if we were to get a little dramatic about it, life-saving decisions. But yeah, we're back in Tahoe, and I'm fortunate enough to be joined with my trail friends. And a lot of people on trail call people that huddle and group together, they call it a tramley. And I think we've talked about this before, but for some reason that word just gets under my skin. So we don't really call ourselves a tramley. We call ourselves maybe a wolf pack. At one point when we've had other friends with us, we've called ourselves the dinner party. But basically anything but a tramley. Even though we are very, very joined at the hip and very much like a family, all the way down every single one of our meals.
I love that. And the last time we spoke, and of course we keep up like all the way along the journey, Mars, me following you on your Garmin, on your GPS, and you, safe to say you were making really good progress until this major hiccup. So explain what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, hiking along, and we've got the state of California seems like it's catching on fire. And starting mostly around the Pacific Crest Trail. So yeah, we've had some obstacles that we've got to maneuver around. And so we're sitting back here in Tahoe. We were up around the halfway point of the trail, and I felt like it was important for us to get off trail and reimagine what the rest of the trail was going to look like for the rest of the journey to be able to finish. So we made the decision to come back to a safe place in Tahoe and like I said, reimagine and kind of revision where we need to get on and look at the logistics behind all of that and make some really smart decisions. So fortunately, we're able to come on the show, and I've got with me, and sitting to my left is Glider, and that is Simone Federici. She is a former program manager, corporate program manager in operations. But what's really cool about her is that her passion really lies in ultra marathon. She's an athlete. She's an endurance athlete, endurance runner. And so I feel fortunate to be able to keep up with her in good company. And then to my right is Haley Gamertsfelder, and that is nattyg. And she has been working her entire adult life in wilderness conservation with some of the most prestigious names in Montana conservation. And together they have both they've earned their trail names. Glider, being just this poetry in motion when she glides through water sources or throughout the trail. And then nattyg is a very short, lighthearted term for Nat Geo. She's taught us so much on trail with some of the things that she's learned in her profession. So I am in really, really good and fun, lighthearted company. And I've been having the time of my life, even though we have been stopped in our tracks due to this fire situation it's unfolding every day. But, I kind of want to turn it to them and let them share a little bit of what this fire closure and having to jump around and reimagine what our next steps are going to be. Glider, Simone, tell us what does this fire closure mean to you? And, let's talk about the fire closure first, and then maybe talk about how we all kind of came together on trail and tie it in to how we're able to make such good decisions together.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in California, and over the years, you become very accustomed to the California fire season. And so going into the PCT, you kind of know it's not if a wildfire is going to change your plans, but more so when. And as soon as you get into that Northern California region, some people even kind of dub it the tinderbox, which is not a very comforting name when you're hiking in wilderness areas. And so when we came to find out about all of these closures, it's really interesting that a single heat wave or a single 24-hour period can completely change the rest of the course of the trail. So when we started hearing about this, we had just gotten off trail to a town and we're resupplying our food. And you start to be informed on these closures and these fires that are breaking out through like social media sources. And then the Pacific Crest Trail Association, or PCTA, is fairly quick to react in closing certain sections of the trail. And so it felt almost apocalyptic when all of these new fires were popping up overnight. And we went from being around 50% done with the trail to like 75 or 80% of the way done with the trail almost overnight. And so to process all of that was there's just so many emotions involved. I think you kind of go through the steps of grieving. So like at first, like you're in denial, like there's no way like things will reopen. You're in denial that it's spread from like 2,000 acres to 18,000 acres to 50,000 acres. Like it just doesn't seem real. And so you're kind of in a little bit of denial. But once you start to accept it, then there's a part of you that set out to through hike the trail, which in kind of very pure terms means hike every mile. And so there's like an element of kind of sadness and grieving of like the loss of the trail miles, but also kind of the loss of the through hiking experience. And to salvage that, you kind of have to quickly change your mindset and accept like these are the conditions of the trail. They are out of my control. And what is now in my control is having a positive attitude and outlook towards the rest of the miles that we can do on trail. So that's what we're doing now. And I'm really excited to get back and finish off.
Yeah. As Simone's talking, we're all sitting around the table, just shaking our heads in agreement. But I know that, being at a halfway mark, that's an emotional celebration within itself. And then all of a sudden, just as Simone said, you're cutting off another 25% of the trail. We're at the point where we're going to be having to skip over almost 600 miles worth of trail. And so I know Haley's probably got some feelings about that and maybe some other thoughts about the fire closures as well.
Yeah. So we didn't actually get to walk by the halfway point, which was pretty sad for me because I think feeling that was like, it would have been a huge accomplishment. And we had gotten to celebrate our 1,000 mile mark a couple of weeks ago. And that was a really big feeling. And we got to sit around it and just kind of be alone. There was no other hikers there when we got there, and just kind of sit with this pretty enormous number and be like, we did that. And that was really special. But missing these big milestones that are the halfway point, and then we won't actually be able to walk into Oregon from California, which was something I was really looking forward to because we were supposed to be in this state for 1,600 miles. So losing some of those has been a bummer, but we're still together and we're going to be in Oregon this weekend, which is really exciting. Excited for a change of scenery, and really excited to walk across the Bridge of the Gods to get into Washington in a couple more weeks. So I'm just looking forward to what's next and grateful that we're here.
Yeah, one of the things you just said stuck out in my head is we're still together after all these miles and after all these experiences, because it's not just the fire closures that I think have brought us together and brought us closer in decision making and things like that, but it's all the day-to-day stuff as well. All the day-to-day decisions, where are we going to stop? What are we going to do? When are we going to eat lunch? Are we going to do it together? Or are we going to keep moving on? I mean, the list can go on and on and on. And so I think that's what's really neat. And I think that long trails in particular, since that's the experience that we're on right now, is that they bring people together that, they may be like-minded in some ways and completely different in others, but there's a reason that we all came together. And I think each day is a testament to why we're able to stick together as tight as we have. While we hike along, we see other hikers, they come and go, and, they leave groups of people and, maybe go out as a lone wolf, but we've really managed to want to stick together and make these decisions together. So I wanted to leave it to you guys to kind of share the story about how we all met up. And I think let's start with you, Haley, since the two of us met before we met Simone.
Yeah. So I met Marci, who is Blonde Bear on trail. On my third day, we were in Mount Laguna, and I was hiking with this girl from Canada, and she was really nice. I liked spending time with her. We were waiting at a picnic table by some showers, and I saw this incredible shirt that had a bunch of fruits and vegetables on it. And I was like, wow, that's an amazing shirt. If that's a hiker, I want to get to know them. And then Marci comes over and introduces herself, and she's wearing this amazing shirt, which is her town shirt, which is, have you explained town shirts before?
No, go ahead.
So we have our hiking outfit, which is we wear just every single day. It gets pretty disgusting. But a lot of hikers will also have their town outfit. So it's like generally something a little bit fun or just something comfortable that is just dissimilar to what we hike in. And Marci's is just this great button up with fruits and vegetables on it. So I just loved that. And that on her just really stuck out to me. And I was like, I think I want to get to know this person better. And then we didn't really start hiking together until maybe 2 days after that.
Yeah, I remember when we first started, because we were kind of back and forth leapfrogging each other, because we had gotten wind there was it's a little dramatic to say a predator on trail, but there was word that there was a gentleman on trail. I guess not a gentleman. He was a man on trail that would prey after solo hiking females. And so there were several women on trail clustered together, and we were leapfrogging back and forth, and then decided, you know what, let's stick together through these sections. And I think it was all over from there. And then, maybe 100 or so miles later on down the trail, we were able to pick up Simone. And I remember that experience like it was yesterday too.
Yeah. My first impression, we were at a place called Warner Springs, and Blonde Bear and nattyg, or Marci and Haley, had come in, and they had just done a 26-mile day, which is a big day. Even if we did 26 miles right now, that would be more in the realm of normal. But in your first week, that's a really, really big day. And they came in and just threw their packs down, sat down, and were just so exhausted. And it was really funny watching them approach all these other hikers who were just hanging out. And so that was my first impression of them. But I remember they were laughing and smiling, even though they had just conquered this 26-mile day so early on. And so I was immediately very drawn to that type of energy. I always want to be around people that can still have a sense of humor and still be laughing and smiling and stay really positive, even after really hard days and during really hard days. So I was hiking with a partner, and he had to leave trail for a really serious injury. So I had been kind of more or less attached at the hip with someone from the beginning. And then when he left trail in Warner Springs, I was then on my own, and I hiked pretty much a full day by myself. I saw 2 other people the entire day and was convinced I was going to be alone for the rest of the trail, which was very dramatic. It just seemed very real in the moment. And then the following day at lunch, Haley had found basically the only good shade spot. And I asked her if I could hang out with her in her shade spot. And she was like, yeah. So we got to talking, and then Blonde Bear showed up maybe a little while.
3 hours later, I always showed up, especially early on the trail. I would be the last one to show up anywhere. I'm happy to report I have since gotten my trail legs and now can keep up with an ultra marathoner and a wilderness survivalist. So
she's very fast.
I'm doing well now. But
yeah, so that was funny. And I just remember the three of us were together for the first time, and we just laughed and talked and laughed some more, and it was so much fun. And I was just like, this is the kind of energy that I want to be surrounded with. And even my partner, who had just left the trail, was kind of even had put that in my head of like, oh, you should maybe try and meet up with Haley and Marci. Like, they seem great. And then that kind of just manifested. So basically, since that point, we started hiking together and then making decisions together. And the more decisions you make together and the more you enjoy each other's company, that's when it really you can start to label it as a trail family, or a trail family, or tramily, as we don't like to say. But yeah, that's how we all met. And I just think that our energies all together and the way that we feed off each other and the way we communicate has been the ultimate recipe for enduring all of these miles together and still choosing this experience together. And there's a really theme on trail. Have you talked about like hike your own hike? So there's like a very kind of dominating concept on trail about hiking your own hike. And that can be defined differently by different people, but it basically means like you need to honor the intentions you have and your style of hiking, and so many different factors go into hiking your own hike. It's kind of like the trail version of like you do you. And so it's really easy to kind of get caught up in the social aspect of trail, which can kind of be in conflict with hiking your own hike. And you've found the right people to stay with when you don't feel like you have to compromise your own experience by being with a certain group of people. And so I feel like I can have the exact experience that I want, and an even like more elevated experience because we've all stuck together. So that's been super important to me, and just another great thing to have that sense of security and stability in a trail that's highly uncertain and unstable, especially as we get into these fire sections.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's something that I've thought about a lot, is the relationships you build on trail and off trail, and making sure that you've got the right people around you that are going to lift you up and support you and help you meet your goals. And help you hike your own hike, whether it's like actually hiking a hike on a trail or, being able to life your own life, so to speak. Haley, what are some of the things, like, why did you want to set out and hike the PCT? And maybe what are have you met your expectations so far at the halfway point, or do you feel like there's still more out there? Like, just, talk about your why and maybe where you are right now.
Yeah. Those are great questions. Yeah. I don't know what I expected when I set out to do this. I grew up pretty close to the midway point of the Appalachian Trail. So long trails have kind of just been in my peripheral for a long time. And I've been living in the West for the last 4 years. So I've just like fallen in love with this landscape, and the PCT seemed like a good launching point, I guess, to get into this realm of long trails. And I realized too, the other day when we found out about these fire closures and realized we're going to lose a lot of miles off of this trail, is like, I'm not done with this. And I can see myself continuing on to other long trails, such as like the Appalachian Trail, like Marci has done in the past, or the Continental Divide Trail that goes along the Rocky Mountains. So I guess why I'm out here, which is always a tough question to ask a hiker, because it's sometimes it's very personal, or just sometimes people don't really know, or it's just kind of subjective. Like sometimes for me, I'm like discovering new reasons why I'm out here. But I think the biggest reason is I just like feel like I'm most myself when I am outside, and I just like am kind of coming into this new power that I didn't know. Like my quads are getting really big, and that's awesome. And it's just like, it's so cool to learn more about yourself and grow, like not just in your muscles, but just your mind. And you feel just pretty mentally like healthy out here because there's a lot of clarity. But yeah, I think that's basically why I'm out here. And I'm just kind of every day reassured that this was the right decision, because it just feels really good to be out here, and to continue doing this. And the fact that we're already more than halfway through and I'm like wanting more makes me realize this is like exactly what I needed right now. So that's why I'm here. That's awesome.
What about you, Simone? Glider? What are your thoughts on like your why, and like why did you start, or is it sort of match up with how you're feeling now? I know that we've talked in the past about, some different reflections that you've had. You are in the process of keeping a really elaborate blog, which I would love to share with everybody at some point, maybe after this podcast. Some of your reflections have been really profound too.
Thanks. Starting with my why, I have always been drawn to the outdoors. I've loved trail running, camping, backpacking, you name it. I'm there outside. And I heard about the PCT, I think in high school. And since then, it's kind of just been in the back of my mind as something that, I'll do that one day. And I'm not sure exactly what it was, whether it was the emotional kind of sentiment around COVID and realizing how fragile life is, or just the fact that on a more like logical basis, like I consider myself young. I'm 26 years old. And so I have very little responsibilities. And I say that coming from a very privileged standpoint, but like, I don't have a mortgage. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't have pets. And so I really wanted to tackle the PCT as something that made sense for this point in my life and kind of be very selfish with my time. And that's what I find the PCT is a way for me to prioritize my own personal growth and the personal experiences and personal goals while I still can afford to do that in my life. And I was working for Amazon in corporate operations, and it's very, very easy to stay in that job and get very comfortable and a cushy salary with a nice life. And it just, I've never been someone who has been okay being comfortable. So once I start to feel comfortable, that's when I kind of get an antsy feeling. And I started to get that feeling with my job and with my life. And I was really looking for something to challenge me in new ways. And so between realizing that life is very fragile and also being kind of comfortable with where I was at in life as a whole, that was kind of a perfect recipe for me to decide to go out and do the PCT. So yeah, it was, I don't remember exactly what day. It was a very ordinary day, but I think my very first reflection in all of this was that big decisions happen on very ordinary days. And so that's kind of how I decided to do the PCT.
That's awesome. And that's a good takeaway too. Big decisions do happen on ordinary days. Just a couple of days ago, we were sitting in Bucks Lake, which is a really, really small, there's no red lights. I don't think there's a stop sign in Bucks Lake. And it is a lake community where people come to vacation. There is no Wi-Fi. There's no cell phone service. It is very quiet and quaint. And we ended up being there, waiting on a ride, which came, and they were not able to take us where we thought we wanted to go. And we were left stranded there, just the three of us, without any service or any idea of how to get out. And the first and instinctual thing that we knew to do was to put our thumbs up and hitch a ride. and we literally stood in the middle of the road. And after about an hour or so of trying to hitch out of this little bitty community, we were able to get a ride. And as I say, pretty much on a daily basis now, and I know these girls are getting really tired of me hearing me say this, but everything happens for a reason. And we met the most nice and well-informed Forest Service employee who has spent his entire time in the wilderness that we were actually in. So he was able to give us some really helpful hints and tips, and took us to the next town over where we were able to really regroup and like I said, create a new plan to get out of the fire issues. But as you can tell, I mean, I am so privileged, and I've learned that I'm hiking with some really smart and brilliant people, in addition to having a passion for being out here. They are really secure in what they're doing and why they're doing it. And I'm really curious if we are about close to 800 miles from finishing this trail. What is it that you guys are hoping to get out of the next 800 miles? I mean, we kind of know what has gotten us at this point. For me, I thrive on epic moments. And trying to set myself up to be open to epic moments, whether it's an amazing campsite, if I'm going to rip off my clothes and jump in a lake, which I've done that twice now, and they're so much more brave at that than I am. I don't know why I'm such a weenie when it comes to jumping in lakes. But I am. So maybe if there's some more lakes, maybe I can do that. Just some more epic views, things that I can write home about, things that I will be able to share stories with over and over and over again. But yeah, I'm always just trying to keep my head and the heart open to just really, really epic moments and epic stories to share. What about you, Haley? What do you hope to squeeze out of the next 800 or so?
Quantifying it like that is interesting. I haven't really thought about the fact that there's only 800 miles left at this point. But yeah, I guess what I hope to get out of it is just to, at this point, continue learning more about myself and what I'm capable of. And for the past couple hundred miles when we were in the Sierra, every single day we had close to 4,000 feet of elevation gain, and climbing that much is really difficult. But then at the end of the day, after you do it and you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. And then the next morning you can do it again and again. You're just realizing how strong you are. And that's really important to me. Just I don't know, falling back in love with my body and my strength was something that I think I set out to do. And I've heard Washington is pretty difficult terrain, so I guess I just continue doing that. And it's also incredibly gorgeous up there. I'm excited for the Northern Cascades. Just as Marci said, just more epic stuff is going to be right up our alley. Yeah.
What about you, Simone?
Yeah, I like that. One of the kind of mindsets that I went into the trail was to not have any expectations, because I think Marci has done a really good job in some of our conversations at splitting the difference between intentions and expectations. And so I think it's easy to have expectations, but so far having zero expectations about the trail has worked out really well. Mm-hmm. I think it makes me a lot more open-minded and my heart a little bit more open to the experiences that we have and the things that I could learn and things that I can see and hear and touch without those expectations. So I plan to continue that. The only expectations I really have are of myself is to be adaptable and to continue to have fun and put my best, I don't want to say foot forward. That's very, very cheesy in this context, but show up as my best self in the ways that I know I can. And that's what I expect of myself. As far as my intentions go, I agree with Haley that a huge piece of this experience is learning more about yourself and growing your own confidence. So I intend to take from all of my experiences and be able to grow even more and to start thinking about not necessarily what I want to do after the trail, because that can be a little bit anxiety inducing, but understand the elements of this experience that have had the most impact and that have really called to me, and really define those in a way that allows me to take them back home with me off the trail. So like two that I can think of are the sense of community. So like, how do I want to take the sense of community on the trail and attempt to recreate that in my home life? And then another one that really is just really important to me is like the amount of time you have to be very still and the distraction-free environment, and how you can create that in your home life, which is probably like overridden with like overstimulation. And so how do I take some of those very still kind of meditative moments throughout the day and bring that back, and the sense of community? Those are two that come to mind.
As you were talking, I started feeling like this little level of anxiety of like, oh my gosh, we've got to have all these thoughts in our head, and it's more than a walk, and you've got to get your life straightened out, and we're going to be different people when we get off and better, and all this stuff gets in your head, and it can be overwhelming sometimes. And so I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely cannot walk all day long for sometimes 14, 15 hours a day and think and be in my head the whole time. So, I'm assuming y'all maybe feel the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a resounding yes.
I don't think anyone could. Oh my gosh, I don't like myself that much.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some things that you do for, that mental stimulation, or just to completely turn everything off? For me, I listen to some really lighthearted podcasts. Sometimes I try to learn new things. You guys are teaching me to learn new things. You each bring a little something that I want to try when I get off trail to better myself, but also listen to a lot of music that makes me happy. So, Haley, what about you? What do you do?
Yeah, pretty similar. Some days are for music. Sometimes the environment really, I don't know, it feels like it needs music sometimes, which I wouldn't really say. Like if I'm just going for a day hike, I feel like I never actually listen to music when I'm hiking. Like it's just kind of weird. And I live in grizzly country, so you kind of need to be on top of it. But yeah, sometimes music just sounds so nice when you're walking through the forest. So I really like to pair it if it makes sense. But I also really like quiet moments, especially in the mornings, in the woods, and like listening to the birds and like the squirrels. I really enjoy that. But I'm also a big podcast listener. I have been trying to listen to ones that are informative. Like I listen to a lot of Throughline and different NPR ones, and just like trying to keep on top of like what's going on in the world, because it's very easy to forget that, like, I don't know, society has a lot going on right now, and we're kind of a little removed from society when we're on trail. That's like when you get to a bar that a bunch of thru hikers are at, you're not really talking about like what the Senate is doing. So I have been trying to make sure that I'm at least informed on that. And oftentimes it is hard to listen to, because it's like, man, everything's so good. I'm just walking in the woods, but then there's these hard truths that I have to be confronted by. So, yeah, I think it's really important to stay informed while you're out here. But what about you, Simone?
Yeah. To your point, it's easy to use the trail as kind of an escape from reality. And I think like being around Haley and her desire to stay informed and not just be blissfully ignorant has been really powerful, and has definitely shed onto me. And so I really appreciate hiking with her and like asking her like, what did you learn from one of your podcasts today? And we'll talk about like social issues or like injustices. And it's really amazing to have that element of when we're out on trail is to still feel like we're staying connected and having really productive conversations about very real issues. For me, I tend to have a mix of podcasts and music. I'd say I probably lean a little bit more towards the music, but I love music. It's on in my life almost all the time. Like if I am running out of time and I'm going to be late for something, I will still stop and take like an extra minute to like put on music for like the next 20 minutes while I'm getting ready. So that's kind of the type of listener that I am. I listen to all different varieties of music. It kind of depends on the mood and the environment and how I'm feeling. But having music complement my hiking experience has been it's made it really fun and enjoyable and energetic. And you can kind of, I think the whole hiking experience is kind of meditative, but when you can find that flow state where it just seems like 2 hours went by, or you just climbed this huge mountain that you were really intimidated by when you looked at it at the map before you started, but then you put your headphones in, you kind of put your head down and you just get in this very like flow state. And you just have a lot of, I don't know, whether it's like endorphins or dopamine or chemicals, like very happy chemicals that are flowing throughout your body. And so I really live for those moments.
Leave it to the ultra to talk about dopamine and flow state and things like that. I'm just like, okay, well, if you can keep breathing when you get to the top, you're definitely going to keep breathing to get to the bottom. So yeah, like, I mean, it's kind of interesting that we all kind of have the same thing. We've got to get out of our heads. We pass a lot of time, bringing in new information and soaking it all in. One of the other things that kind of fills our day, I'm thinking, is the excitement that comes around being able to eat and share meals together, which is fun because we've got a couple of self-proclaimed foodies on trail with us right now. All right. So I don't know if you guys have listened to the Appalachian Trail podcast that I did with Chris a while back. I talked about eating a lot of Little Debbie snacks. I think I had 42 different varieties of Little Debbie. So I'm pretty much okay to consume anything that gets in front of me. However, I have tamed myself quite a bit. I still am quite the sugar fiend, but these guys, I've got a vegetarian and a vegan that I'm hiking with. And this is coming from somebody that was grilling out at least once or twice a week. So I've learned to curb my enthusiasm for creatures with feet. And and I think it's so interesting watching a vegan eat on trail because we have so many different, the restrictions are there because food is not accessible, readily accessible. So Haley, talk about being a vegan on trail, because I think it's fascinating.
So I've been vegan for, I think this is my 8th year. So it is so natural to me at this point. And because I've worked a lot in the backcountry, I've spent a lot of nights camped out. So I'm pretty used to camp food that is vegan, that it is almost, it's like not even difficult to me anymore, which is quite a privilege because that just means that there are more options for me. I think if I was hiking this even like 5 years ago, there would be like not nearly as many, but like it seems like every trail town we get to has a veggie burger option on the menu, which makes it really nice to indulge when you get into town. But when I'm on trail, there's really good options. Beyond Meat started making a jerky, which is really good and satisfying because I think I can get overwhelmed with sweet foods. Opposite to Marci, I really like savory food on trail. I get a little sick of sweets, but it seems that almost every like granola bar, like protein bar nowadays is made with plant-based protein, which makes it really easy. You can always buy some sort of bar, a packet of ramen or something, which the broth is not vegan, but I come prepared. So I have usually my own spices and
coconut
milk powder.
And by spices, this woman is carrying around at least 50 different types of spices to make any ordinary dish taste good. Yeah. It's insane.
I was definitely not 50, but yeah, I come prepared because I do know that you have to be adaptable. So like if all that's available to me is like a beef ramen, then I will buy that and then like give someone else the packet of broth. And then, like I said, just use my little spice rack to make it more fun. But yeah, I think I eat more than everyone else on drill. Simone is like, I don't know, but I think I eat a lot. But it's just important to me to remember to incorporate things like nuts and seeds that are just very good for you and also very filling. Like if I can feel myself crashing, I usually try to do like a good handful of nuts because they're just really sustaining. But yeah, it's just important to pay attention to your nutrition in general. And if I ever felt like I don't know, I couldn't do this and still be healthy, like I would definitely reevaluate, but it's
and why are you looking at me when you say you need to pay attention to your health and nutrition? But thank you. I appreciate that. I do appreciate it. No, I've learned through just watching both of you eat. And I mean, options are pretty much the same for you too, Simone.
Yeah, mine's a little bit less restrictive. So I am, I guess the technical term is I'm a pescatarian, which means I'm a vegetarian, but I also eat fish. And so I normally would not pick up a tuna packet in my home life to eat during the day, but it's a really good protein supplement for dinners, and I'll usually mix it in with another. So I'll make like ramen and I'll add a tuna packet, or I'll have like mac and cheese and I'll add a tuna packet just to get that extra protein, which is really vital for recovery. So the way I think about nutrition is trying to kind of balance out all of the key pieces of diet that are going to help me feel healthy. So like get enough total calories, but also have the right ratio of like protein to carbs to fat. And I'm not so calculated or precise about it. I kind of like ballpark it in my head. But if you're not feeling recovered day after day, like a really good first solution is like to try and increase the amount of protein in your diet or try and just intake more calories overall. So I think the most interesting thing for me as an athlete who thought I already ate a lot before coming onto the trail, your metabolism just really kicks it up a notch. And so you have to find ways to kind of creative ways to get calories. So I have these tiny little olive oil packets and I add that to basically all of my dinners because it's instantly another about 100 calories and good fat. Mm-hmm. So that's a little trick I have. But yeah, kind of like Haley was saying, diet largely consists of a lot of oats, a lot of bars. I do a lot of like tortillas and cheese. It says you need to refrigerate cheese, but you really don't have to. It's fine. Even on the 5th day, it's fine. So yeah, tortillas, cheese, and then for protein, the protein bars, nuts and seed butters are really good. And then I think a lot of our dinners are carb-based, which I don't love, but you don't have a kitchen to cook fresh vegetables in, so you're kind of out of luck with that one. But yeah, that's about the basis of my diet.
And talking about food, I think we are probably in the process of spending the rest of this day after this recording going and resupplying for the next 100 to 150 mile stretch of trail, and go ahead and getting another 4 to 5 more days worth of food
We'll take our iron stomachs, pick out some cheeses that will hopefully last for us, leave the vegan to get her vegan cheeses. So yeah, we'll resupply over the next couple 100 miles and then kind of reassess if we want to send packages to ourselves while we're up in Washington to make things a little bit easier for resupply, to help keep us on trail and keep us focused to finishing up this trail on a strong note. I think that we've probably shared a lot. And, Chris, do you have any questions or any follow-up or anything? Because I do want to end this episode on just some really quick answer, because we talk about a lot of things and we've gotten a little bit into our heads and in our heart and shared some vulnerabilities and thoughts about what we're doing and why we're doing it. But there's a lot of stuff that happens on trail that deserve just one really quick answer.
Well, before you get to that, Marci, I'm curious, now that we've heard that spices are selection of spices are in somebody's backpack there, you haven't told me what your luxury is.
Ooh, my luxury items are... I've really gotten into some soy sauce, and Haley did bring me into, like, next time we go into the grocery store, go to the sushi section, grab some soy sauces, because it's going to amplify pretty much any carb that's sitting in the bag. Some of the other things that I really enjoy eating are fruit snacks. Pretty much end every meal, either it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or second lunch or second dinner with a fruit snack package. And I'm doing my hardest, Chris, to stay away from like candy bars, but I do pack a couple just in case I get to that point where that's going to be the only thing that brings me out of a not a moral slump, but a sad little depressed slump. A good candy bar is always the best thing to eat on trail. So
you keep your blood sugar up, right?
Yeah, it's important for me.
And I have to wonder too, you guys have become such close friends now and shared such life-changing experiences along the way. Let's not over-dramatize this, but really these are life-changing moments in the course of a life when you embark on an adventure like this. And, there's so many memorable moments that you've shared. I wonder what you guys are going to do afterwards when you all go home and get on with the rest of your life. Are you going to be tempted to join up again and do another long trek together?
Oh, we've already talked about it.
Yeah. I think we've spent a lot of time talking about what post-trail life is going to be for us individually and then also together. I think starting with, we've already got a group text that is outrageous already. So I know that when we're apart and we see things that remind us of the trail or each other, we'll definitely be sharing. Haley's in a great position that she is next to ski slopes and glacier National Park. So I know that Simone and I have already started planning trips to go skiing in the winter and aspen hunting in the fall. And then Simone is in Arizona and spends a little bit of time in San Diego where it's sunny and 75. So I know that that's going to be really tempting as well. I think that, and I think I can speak for the three of us, that we will continue to have a good relationship post-trail as well.
I'm sure, but have you told your girlfriends here that I need to borrow you for a while in the fall? Or twice a year?
No, I haven't. But yeah, they do know that we are having a bike trip planning session where we are going to try to figure out what trail we're going to do next. So yeah, I think they're going to be really understandable if I can go away for a little bit of time and go bike with you.
Excellent. Well, not forgetting Sarah, of course. She's forever understanding when you go off on your adventures, wherever they may lead you.
I got the best support system, pretty much all and family at home. Yeah,
you absolutely do. And I wanted to give Haley and Simone the opportunity to give a shout out to the people that mean the most to them in their life and enable them to do this hike, which obviously takes you away from home for many months.
Yes. I have someone back home named Chris, so great name. And he's been monumental sending out my boxes and even came to visit. And my mom knows very little about this part of my life, but she has been super supportive and awesome. And thanks for giving us the opportunity to shout them out.
Yeah. And for me, my friends and family back home, my parents who were very supportive when I told them I wanted to do this, and all of my friends who have helped like pay for things or sent me boxes, of things that I didn't need, but just out of the kindness of their hearts, they shipped homemade cookies to a post office in a random city in California. So it's been a little bit of that. And then another huge shout out to my partner who we started the trail together. And when he had to leave the trail for a really serious IT band issue, he kind of transitioned into this support role for us. And so we had a lot of tiny little luxuries throughout the trail. With him meeting us at trailheads to drive us into towns. And then he has a place in Tahoe, which is where we're staying right now. That's the, quote, safe place that Marci had mentioned earlier. We're here at his place. And so he has had a car and has just picked us up so many times, driven us around, gotten us when we needed to be transported longer distances, taking us to grocery stores, all of the above. So we're really fortunate. Most people do not have someone who is essentially at their beck and call. So we're really lucky to have him around and his continued support.
We all need a guardian angel. And how's his IT band recovery?
It was very slow and minimal at first. We thought maybe he would be off trail for a few weeks, but that's turned into a much longer, more serious injury. So most recently, he has been undergoing physical therapy, and in the last month or so has started to see some really slow recovery. So he is back on his feet and he's being active every day, like walking around a lot. So the progress is definitely there. I don't foresee him being able to fully come back to the trail, which is really sad because we set this out as something that we wanted to do together, and it's really sad we're not going to be able to finish it together, but I'm hopeful for his recovery, and I think that a long trail is definitely in his future. It just wasn't this one.
Well, we wish him well. Marci, back to you now, because you said you've got some quick-fire questions. I can't wait to hear what those are.
Yeah, I got a few, and I think they'll be a lot of fun. And I think maybe the best way to do this is I'd love to get answers from both of you. Mm-hmm. But I thought of these questions, so I don't feel like I can really fully answer them because I've got some premeditated thoughts. But I would love for both of you to answer. But if you can't answer, that's okay. We'll just skip and go to the next one. But they're really just one-word answers.
Okay.
All right. All right. What is your must-do thing before bed?
Stretch.
So Haley wants to stretch.
Ooh, I don't know. Send a check-in message.
All right, send a message from the Garmin.
From the Garmin, yeah, when I don't have service.
What's the best animal you've seen?
Bear.
Oh, yeah.
Simone, have you seen a bear on trail?
No.
Okay.
Just here in Tahoe.
Simone and I are the only two that have seen a bear in a neighborhood and not on trail. And I thought for sure we'd see them going through the desolation wilderness, but Haley did see
I had
bear.
a special moment with a bear one morning. It was a tough morning, and seeing its big, fuzzy brown butt brought me a lot of joy.
I told her she needed to make sure that it was actually a bear because I did run off trail to go poop.
It was not a blonde bear.
It was not me. What is your go-to sing out loud song on trail?
Celine Dion.
Okay. Which song? Any?
What's that one? That's big right now.
I don't know. Well, you'll have to sing it for us as soon as we get back on trail.
Okay.
What about you?
I don't know. I feel like we sing a lot of Fergie or Black Eyed Peas songs, and we'll like swap the lyrics for really like funny trail things. So yeah, that's been really fun. That we probably started that in the last week or so. We've just a very recent kind of way to pass the time that just like is so hilarious to us. Like swap out the lyrics and.
Yeah, I think that's what's kind of fun is that we can pretty much have an entire conversation based off of lyrics from other songs and probably go on and on and on.
Oh, yeah.
So we are heading into a trail town. What is the one thing that you crave the most?
potatoes, even though I have potatoes on trail.
You eat mashed potatoes like every night.
But it's fried potatoes.
Okay, fried potatoes.
Oh, vegan mayo.
But Haley, you made us specifically yesterday go get bubble tea. We had to go get special mayonnaise.
Well, it changed. Yeah, it changes. We did get boba yesterday, and that was really awesome because I think we crave cold.
Yeah,
drinks.
Anything cold.
Yeah,
like my two are iced coffee and ice cream.
Yeah, anything cold. All right, we're gonna get a little dirty right now. What is the grossest habit you've picked up? Or maybe you haven't picked it up, but it's more accentuated on trail.
I want to out
Picking
myself.
my nose.
All right, Simone is picking her nose. Are you going to stop that post trail? It's going to be hard.
It's going to be so hard.
We don't carry tissues, so I was going to say that too, but then I was trying to come up with a different one, and I'm like, do I want people to know how gross I am?
Yes.
I don't know.
Would you like for us to answer that for you?
Maybe.
No, I think mine is probably snot rockets are disgusting, and then wiping my hands just on my clothes.
Yeah.
Haley, last chance.
Well,
grossest habit.
I don't know if I don't.
One answer, quick.
If my butt is itchy, then I really have to reach it. Clean it out, I don't know.
I don't know what she's trying to say, but we just muffled that up with a bunch of laughs. So we're going to have to maybe ask about that later. I don't know. Maybe we just skip over that. All right. And then last one, and then I'll get to a serious question is, do you guys dig your cat hole pre or post poop?
Post.
Yeah.
Always.
Pre.
I have self-control.
Clearly, Simone and I don't.
Like 99% of my poops are emergency poops, which means this is all of a sudden coming right here, right now, and you need to find a spot as quickly as possible. So cat holes are dug after.
I had a friend who would dig her cat hole the night before in anticipation of her morning poo, which is brilliant.
Yeah, that's a lot of planning.
Yeah.
All right. Last serious question, and we will end this. Quick answers. What has been you can choose, what has been the toughest or easiest thing that you've learned to adapt or not adapt to since being on trail? I'll give you a chance to think about it. For me, I think that one of the toughest things that I've had to adapt to is trying to fall asleep. I think it's so difficult, especially when Simone's sleeping pad is so loud.
That's true.
When she rolls around, she's like a rotisserie chicken, just always on a swivel.
I'm so sorry.
Earplugs.
Okay.
Might I suggest once again?
And what is yours?
I don't know, because we spent a lot of time in the backcountry, but I think I could maybe go with easiest is like getting into my routine. Like my nighttime routine has become almost kind of easy. It's like we set up our tents and I blow up my sleeping pad, which only takes 3 breaths. And then I make dinner, and I like that easy routine.
Yeah.
And then I can go right into my sleeping quilt right after dinner.
Yeah. Routine's easy.
Yeah.
Routine's good. What about you, Simone?
Yeah, I like the thoughts on routine. And like I, in my line of work before this, we kind of lived by this process called standardize, or like centralize, standardize, automate, optimize. And so I think about that. I know that's a lot of work jargon, but like I think about that with my nightly chores and my routine, that the more I standardize my steps, the more automated they feel, and so they take a lot less energy from me. So if I put like these 3 items in this pocket every single night and these 3 items in this pocket every single night, then it becomes very robotic and takes a lot less energy. So I think that's become easy. And then yeah, for difficult, I think, I don't know. I actually think this is easier than I thought, is like waking up every day and having to hike so many miles every single day. Like I thought that would take some very Herculean efforts every single morning, like needing pep talks and digging yourself out of like exhaustion. But the more time you spend on trail and the more you allow the people around you and the environment around you to re-energize you, even when you're tired and exhausted, it becomes a lot more sustainable than you think.
Definitely. Well, there you go. There you have it. The ins and outs of what our little group is doing on the PCT. I wouldn't trade this experience for anything so far. And I know that the next 800 or so miles are going to be epic, and they're going to be curious and full of adventurous, and plenty of stories to tell when we do get off trail.
And Marci, just explain exactly where you will pick up the trail in Oregon.
We are going to be leaving in a couple of days, driving up to Bend, Oregon, which is about an 8.5-hour drive via the road. And then we are going to go a little bit southwest of Bend and get on the trail just north of Crater Lake. And that will clear us of any of the fire closures that are active right now. Obviously, there are websites and mapping available to us right now that we're able to monitor any additional fires or additional closures. And we're keeping that pulled up, tracking that as closely as possible so that if we do need to make a change, we can. But we are in a good position to, if we can get to Bend, or when we get to Bend, we will be able to get on trail close to that city and be able to go forward, finish up Oregon, which is only a couple 100 miles, and then tackle Washington, which should take us about a month or so. So, I'm anticipating you're probably going to ask me what it's looking like for a finish date. And we're still looking at early mid September as a completion to tag the line.
Okay. All right. Before you go, we just remind everybody how they can find you on social media. If you could each of you spell out your hiking names and social media tags.
Yeah, absolutely. And as always, you can find me at Blonde Bear Hikes. That's on Instagram at Blonde Bear Hikes. And then I'm also on Facebook. You can find me by my name. And Haley, you've got social media.
I'm on Instagram. It's Insta Rice Pudding. That's it. And yeah, I go by nattyg on trail.
Yeah. And then Glider, you don't have social media, but you have been putting together a really great blog. If you'd like to share that, you're more than welcome to. I know that you have been keeping it close to family and close friends, but if you'd like to share that publicly, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely for any sort of public consumption. My initial intended audience was just to keep my friends and family informed and give me an outlet to write. So I have a blog. It's hikingwithsimone.wordpress.com. So you can give that a follow. And that's a very intimate, daily and or weekly look at what we're experiencing. So it's been really fun to take that time to write and put some reflections in there and tell some good stories. So feel free to give it a follow.
Yeah. And in the meantime,
we'll put a link in the show notes then for that. Then Marci, I just need to for Haley to spell out nattyg.
Nattyg. It's NATTYG.
G.
Natty.
It's easy as that on Instagram. Okay.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Marci, to wrap this up before we catch up with you in Oregon?
I think the final thought after this session is that it is so much more fun to do this together than alone. And being alone, especially going through, fire closures or weather, or even the elevation, some of the elements that have been really difficult, it's so much better to have that support with good friends. And I'm excited about taking that the next step.
Absolutely. Well, stay safe, all of you. Thank you so much for taking time to come on the show. And don't forget to listen back if you have not heard the previous episodes of Marci on this trail. There are a few more episodes in the Amazon series at Wisp Sports. You can follow the show notes at wispsports.com. And we're, of course, on social media at Wisp Sports. So, Marci, my friend, take care. I look forward to catching up with you further up the trail. And thank you again, Haley and Simone, for joining us. And the very best of luck. Stay safe and continue to have the fun fun that you're having.
Appreciate you, Stafford.
Thanks for having us.
You're the bee's knees.